Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, I am doing something I haven't done in a long, long time, and that's to give you kind of an update on my AD&D First Edition campaign. As you can see by the banner down at the bottom, this is going to be a recap of sessions 89 through 91. So basically, the last 3 weeks of our sessions. And so, yes, we have done 91 sessions of this campaign. Our sessions run anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours long. So we are, certainly over the 300-hour mark for this campaign. And we've been very, very consistent, only having a few breaks here and there. Um, would we be around probably like session 95 or so? So we've only missed about 4 sessions in the past almost 2 years. So it's not really, terrible to think about it. We've been very, very consistent. I have uh, I have 7 players in the group. Initially started out with 10, and then of course over the span of time, we've lost a few players here and there for mostly work related issues and such, but always on you know always having departed with an invitation to return. So let's put it that way. No one has ever been no one has ever been put out, and no one has ever left disgruntled about anything going on. It's been a very, very drama free group of 10 to, and now 7, group of 7 to 10 friends. And I really do believe that we've created a friendship, and this group of individuals that I call amongst my friends now. We are actually looking to move on sometime in September, October. I bring it up all the time. Move on to a Castles and Crusades campaign, bringing some new people in as well. So let me talk a little bit about the Keepers of Queskatan, which is the name of the party. So that's what they've been known on as, and that became the campaign name for them, going all the way back to our first less than 2 months of gameplay together. So that really derives back from B1 when we ran that first adventure with them, and really it's super modified anyway. So it's not like we ran modules. We basically um, we basically utilize modules maps and some of the backstories of them, but for the most part, we have not run a single module from start to finish as written. They've always been highly modified to match the campaign as it developed. So, sessions 89 through 91 so far, the party is now making an incursion into a very large orc lair, and this orcish, it's really considered somewhat of an orcish kingdom, as it were. So it's called the Iron Spine Orc clan, and they occupy the Iron Spine Hills, and named after the mines that were there that they had taken over. I'm not going to reveal how large the actual clan or tribe or kingdom of the orcs are, because I'm sure some of my players are going to watch this, and I don't want to tip anything off. But the player party, as I said, is seven characters, and they are all in the level 8 through 10 range. And so they're a fairly powerful group, and they have quite a number of magic items. There are several with a -5 AC, or at least one with a -5 AC, and the average is probably below AC3. And so you would think, well, you know what, with such a large party, 7 members is still a fairly large party, all in that kind of a level range, anywhere from, the lowest is 8 and the highest is 10. Um, what are they doing in an orc lair? How is an orc lair going to truly be a challenge for them? Well, several things that I discovered, quite some months ago was that I started to integrate some of the elements of Castles and Crusades into my AD&D First Edition campaign. One of which is the critical hits and critical fumble charts from Castles and Crusades, and that has added such a really interesting element to the game, and my players have really embraced it. I absolutely love it because it gives a lot more nuance and a lot more conditions, let's say, that can be applied to um, you know critical hits and critical failures and such, that it's just something that they obviously they don't look for. They're hoping that they don't critically fumble and cause themselves a serious injury. And I certainly don't sit there hoping that I roll 20s against them and they start getting these critical injuries or even the risk of death and such. But when it does happen, it becomes something that's it's something that we talk about, and some of them have been comical, in a sense of, especially when they have a string of these events. And we had a few where people were losing eyes and getting blinded and such, all in one particular battle. And it just bad roll after bad roll, or my rolls, rolling a 20 here or there, and just inflicting that extra damage to them. So here you have a very powerful party going into an orc lair, and they're being challenged. And the reason why they're being challenged is because they're facing so many enemies, and so there are so many attack rolls going at them that there's just a higher chance of there being critical hits on them. And with them having to attack so many different opponents, at a time, um, they're also rolling quite a bit, and so it increases the number of chances that a fumble can occur. So it really has been pretty intense, and they're such a I don't want to use the word cautious. They're such a smart and calculating group of players that they make these plans, and then they go in and they implement these plans, and their plans usually work out pretty well, and they're pretty they have a lot of ingenuity when they're using some of their abilities and such. And so it increases the challenge for me as the dungeon master to kind of amp up the other side and not quite beat them at their own game, but certainly play them smarter. And so that's the real challenge here, is that yeah, these guys are super powerful in comparison to a one hit die orc, but when they're facing 15 or 20 of them and they've run out of those area effect, crowd control or area effect damage spells and such, they have to rely more on, um, combating them directly or coming up with other means of, um, preventing having to engage with so many. And so that's been the real challenge, and it's been really eye opening that you can still challenge your high level players, and high level player characters, I should say, with fairly mundane creatures, and still make it a challenge. Because anytime you have the player party going into the lair of anything, they automatically start off at a disadvantage. All right. And you should always play that layer up to be challenging, regardless of the type of creatures that the lair belongs to. So, without further ado, let me just show you a little bit. I'm not going to show you the map because, again, my players are going to see this, and there's no way to show you a roll 20 map where they don't see the shaded in area when you're looking at it from my perspective. When I show it to you, they might see it all blacked out on their own screen when they're in game, but on this screen they would see the whole darn thing, and I don't want them to get the impression or to be tipped off on how big or how small or how whatever the layer happens to be. So without further ado, let's switch over to um, the battle map, and I will start recapping this. So I will sort the players out and everything, but this was the last battle chamber that they were in. They initially came up, and I will talk about the characters separately. Um, they had initially come up this hallway here, and you'll see the little ping, and they were faced. They faced off with two orcish warriors with tower shields, plate armor, and they were kind of standing in front of the three crossbow wielding orcs behind them. So kind of like a almost like a a buttress or a shield wall in front of the three archers. Now the three archers are crossbow orcs. They they had their bolts with very powerful contact poison on them. So that was the up in the ante on the challenge of them facing these creatures. But they of course one of the characters, Zane, um, who is a thief illusionist. He was able to. He has a kind of like a minor fireball, wand of fireball. So it deals out a fireball of I believe it is 3d6 damage, and I'd have to re look over the battle log. And so he utilized it here, so it certainly did impact them fairly well, and they were able to face this challenge fairly quickly. But then that led to some other event, as you can see here. They then entered this room after getting past the locked doors, and they were initially engaged by uh, two orcish assassins. Now these were half orcs, and they were fifth level assassins. And one of the player characters, had taken a hit by it, but it wasn't a kill shot. It was just four double damage, backstab, and and some poison involved with that attack as well, but it did not do. I believe it did around 15 or so points of damage. That attack combined up, so he got lucky with some of the rolls there. It could have done as much uh, as much as like 20. I want to say as much as 30 points of damage if if everything had gone completely wrong, which would be quite a lot for some of these characters here, because some of these characters, a 30-point hit is more than half their hit points, their maximum hit points, and that would have caused them to have to make a system shock check or die. And that's been the most common near death experience that the player characters have faced throughout this entire campaign. Is There's only been a couple occasions where they went into negatives, but more instances where they had to make system shock checks in order to avoid dying from either taking more than 50% of their hit point damage, or In the case of a critical hit followed by another natural 20, which would normally be an instant death shot, they have to make a critical save. And if they save it, they're left with 0 hit points at that stage, which happened during this battle, actually. So I'm going to get into some details. So in session 89, one of the paladin had gotten a critical hit against him, and the arrow had or bolt, actually it was a crossbow bolt, had completely destroyed his right eye. So he has been blind for the last 3 sessions and in the one eye. So with all the minuses that go along with that, and so he's been struggling with that particular attack and dealing with it during that same session. So this is session number 89. um Sparrow, the druid, she was also critically hit and blinded in both eyes. All right, and so she was blinded in both eyes, and she needed to actually have a specific spell of cure blindness cast on her in order to rectify that. But luckily, her eyes were not destroyed by it. That was just the condition that she had. Um, Two other characters fumbled during their attacks, and then um, a third character was also critically injured during this, but not any real lasting effects of it other than requiring some additional healing. So this was session 89, and with all of the loss of an eye and the blindness and fumbles and tripping and all kinds of stuff, it really did become part of part of like a running joke almost, that this was 89 was when everyone was just struggling, and again, just against orcs and a couple of other some human mercenaries, and I believe two ogres, if yeah, two ogres as well. So it was really just a disastrous thing, and a number of goblins that were also thrown into that. So again, the greater numbers keeps on increasing the amount of possibilities for some of these things occurring. Then session 9. So session 9, and that was leading up to this room here. So it was just prior to this. So session 9, once again, they faced a 90. I mean, session 90, they faced a combined number of about 15 to 20 different opponents. Um, Candrius is the paladin, and he was hit critically in the head, and it brought him to 0 hit points, and he was forced to make a critical save, right, or a system shock check. That was the 19th system shock check in 90 sessions that one of the at least one player character had to make. So they've been averaging very close to about 20% of the time, or a little bit higher than 20% of the time, having to make these rolls where it's like one missed roll and you're dead. All right, and they've already seen how difficult it is so far to get other, like some of those high level healing spells, in order to recover from that. They've never even heard about a resurrection spell yet, and it might actually be easier for them to find a wish than it would be for them to find a resurrection spell. But they're consistently trudging along and fighting through these things. So So again, in session 90, Paladin gets a critical hit, headshot, brought to zero, has to uh, has to make a system shock. Amalric, the elven magic user fighter, uh, took a critical hit to the head, shattering all of his teeth and or several of his teeth. So basically, really messing up his jaw. Once again, it's the second time that he has taken a critical hit to the jaw. So I'm pretty sure he's looking pretty freaking brutal after all of this time. And if I were using comeliness, I would have probably have taken off some comeliness points, on him, up to this point here. Then we got to this current this current session here, and this current session here, it was a series of fumbles, all right, on their part, and a couple of critical rolls to go along, right? So let's see. Amalric again, the elven magic user fighter, fumbled, injured his knee, causing him to have -2 to his initiative rolls for the remainder of the battle until his knee is healed, and he took an additional 6 points of damage from that attack. Then Breeze, who is our elven cleric here, and you can see he's recovered some of his hit points. But Breeze, for the very first time, this player's character took the most damage in this one particular battle that he's ever taken before. You can see he has a minus. He's 8th level cleric. He has a -1 AC. He's currently at 20 hit points, down from 65, if I can see that clearly. 65. He normally has 65 hit points. So he was brought to zero from a fumble, right? So he fumbled, caused his own injury. He rolled a 1 followed by a 20, and he had to make his very first system shock check. He took 46 hit points of damage at that point. It brought him to zero, and he was the 20th system shock check in a row that they had been successful in rolling. So really good to see that he did survive it, and the rest of the battle kind of ebbed and flowed for the most part, but they just kept on battling through, and even though they were taking some pretty hefty hits here and there, virtually everybody took some damage in this, whether it be from anywhere from 1 point to, like I said, that total -46 hit point shot there. um, even if he didn't take that kind of a hit, if he didn't fumble it, he would have still, with that amount of hit point damage, he would have still had to make a system shock anyway. Um, Here we have a Malric still recovering from all of his previous injuries during this battle, and Candrius likewise still recovering from his serious injuries. Now they fought a 10, like I didn't adjust his hit points here. They fought a 10th level half orc cleric, um, and along with all of the two 5th level assassins, and then I believe it's about 10 or 15 orcs along inside this battle here. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail with the treasures that they found in the various different like safe rooms and such like that. I believe one of them got poisoned from attempting to pick a lock on a chest. And again, you can create a situation that is fairly mundane creatures and make it a true challenge for a higher level player group here. And as you can see, like I said, the I will start shifting all of these because so we have Sparrow there, and she's down to 43 from 50, so she didn't take too much damage in this particular session. Some of them already healed each, cast their heals. Zane um, didn't take too much damage in this at all, or maybe none. Looking at it, Breeze almost killed, and he took the most damage in this particular battle. The most damage he's taken in 91 sessions. Yeah, and he's been here the whole time as well. So from start to finish, oh, here is Bernard. He took 1 point, 1 point during this battle. Candrius the Paladin took he went from 71 to 45, so he took quite a bit, and he was just short, I believe, because that was not all in one strike. He was just short of having to make um, a death save basically himself, or a system shock check, I should say. And then here, rounding it out, we have Angus, who did not take any damage during this particular session. So you can see here, I mean, these are 8, 9, 10. Let's see, Sparrow is level 10, Zane is level 9, level 8, level 7, 8, dual class character, level 8, level 7. Well, he's dual class, so Amalric is 7 and 7 and 7, I believe, or maybe he's 7 and 8. And finally, Angus is technically level 7 and 7, but he's a first level bard. So he went through that whole process of having to go up 7 levels in fighter, followed by 7 levels in thief. And now he's a first level bard. So I have to make that change for him. So there you pretty much have the recap of the last several sessions in my AD&D First Edition campaign. Uh, they are going to continue making their way. They had gone to the right, which is tends to be their thing. They always travel to the right, and so they had traveled off to the right, but to the left they had cast a cloud kill spell and sent it down that hallway to kind of clear up, clear that so that they can move forward to the right without having to worry about anything coming up, from their rear to the flank. So I had to see, well, how are those creatures that were potentially in there, because they did hear movement and such. How would they have reacted and such? But now that they've completed this section where they're in, they're going to start looking to make their way back out of there because yeah, as far as they know, they're at a dead end right now, and they're going to continue making their way in a new direction. And then I will determine how this layer is going to begin to respond to their presence, because and they fully expect this. They realize that their presence is not going to be unnoticed after they've killed probably about 45 45 orcs and goblins, and now they've killed a 10th level priest, and two, at least two, two assassins that they know of, because they don't know what the cloud kill had actually accomplished. So this is in my opinion, this is the way that you challenge high level characters, or high level character group with fairly mundane situations, and then just making it run a little bit smarter, making them realize that they can't take their high level versus the creature's low level. They can't take that for granted, that it's going to be a very easy slog for them to go through this. It should be a big to clear out a very large layer, and I think that they're starting to experience that. And attrition is the other thing that's really important. There is the spell attrition that they're going to face. It's not like they can decide, all right, we're going to sleep inside this lair. At least I'm sure they're not thinking of that. And I think that they're fairly certain that they will probably have to come back out and then go back in again. And every time that that happens, there is going to be some kind of a response, or another, another situation will keep on rearing its ugly head each time that they're forced to do that, because a layer is a living, ecosystem, and it should continue to react to what the player party's group is actually doing with it. And so that's how you, again, that's how you challenge your players. It's not going into a room and the orcs or the ogres or whatever are just standing there waiting for them to come in. Hi, how are you? Come on in, slaughter us. And the room next door, they're not even going to hear this, react to this at all. They're going to just be standing there waiting for you to walk through that door. That's not the way you should be running a lair, or really just anything that you're doing in the game. Is you know the opposition has to react and even prepare and anticipate what the player party is attempting to do, and that's how you up that challenge. So I hope you enjoyed hearing this recap, and I'm looking forward to our game tonight, tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and we'll see how things go. If we go through the next couple of sessions, and I'll probably look to do another recap in a couple of weeks, unless something really really important happens. Then I will do a recap of that specific session, rather than combining them up every three or more sessions. So we'll see how this goes, and and hopefully they have a good time tomorrow. I think that they will, and they'll just keep on trudging through this orc lair that they've decided has become a priority for them, to help the greater region around them. Plus, they have a little bit of an atonement to do for their party, as they're trying to rectify a wrong that took place not directly by them, but kind of indirectly by their actions. And so they have a little bit of a guilt for what potentially is happening here, and so they're trying to make an atonement for that as well. So thanks for joining. I hope you liked this video. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon. And just keep on gaming out there. Keep on enjoying yourselves. Keep on challenging your players with smart opponents, and and make those lairs a living, breathing place. And you will see how much you really can uh, do with with advanced Dungeons and Dragons in particular, but any role playing game, you can kind of experience the same things as well. So have a great evening. Take care.